The following program includes graphic images and mature subject matter intended for adult audiences. Viewer discretion is advised.
It's a disturbing byproduct of the internet age. Healthy young men who suffer from sexual dysfunction because of an addiction to online pornography. It's a condition that causes shame, depression, even thoughts of suicide. So they turn to drugs like Viagra to restore normal sexuality instead of seeking treatment for their addiction. Tonight, Sean O'Shea has a candid account of one of these men who agreed to tell his story to 16 by 9.
Gabe Dean is strong, athletic, and all-American. You could say he's the picture of male virility. But 3 years ago, this is how this 26-year-old from Irving, Texas, spent most days: in front of his computer, alone, enveloped in an X-rated fantasy world.
When I was around 8 years old, I was walking around my neighborhood, and on just a normal day, I was walking around and I found a Playboy magazine sitting under a bush. And I still remember when I first saw it, I was completely captivated by it. Seeing a naked woman when I'm 8 years old just captivated me and blew my mind.
A normal discovery and curiosity soon became an all-consuming obsession.
Things got really bad when I was around 12, and this is when my family got internet, high-speed internet. I had unlimited access to the most hardcore porn you can think of. So what I would do is I would get out of middle school and come home as fast as I could and watch porn, look up whatever I could for about 3 or 4 hours before my parents got home from work.
Alone in his room, mesmerized. It was an online world he couldn't turn his eyes away from. It also shaped his view of sex and girls.
I became sexually active also when I was 14-ish, and I immediately began to treat girls as sex objects. Just kind of used them and objectified them, and I do think that porn played a huge part in that.
Through his teens and into his 20s, that attitude got worse. A boy's fascination with sex turned into a compulsion.
I was so addicted to pornography that I literally refused to go spend time with my family on Thanksgiving. It led me to a point where I would rather, sit at home and get all my pleasure from a screen than actually, talk face-to-face with people that, I love spending time with.
Gabe didn't realize how bad his porn addiction was until one day he discovered his body was failing him at the most basic level.
I never really noticed that porn was becoming a problem until my wiener no longer worked. When I was 23 years old, I was with a gorgeous girl who I found extremely attractive. We went for sex and nothing happened. I couldn't get turned on at all. And I freaked out.
I'm worried. I'm worried about the impact of porn on men and on women.
Dr. Abraham Morgentaler is a urologist and director of the Men's Health Clinic in Boston. He sees a whole generation of young men just like Gabe, with unlimited access to porn, and that is causing a new condition called porn-induced erectile dysfunction.
What's wrong with porn when it comes to a man's ability to have a successful sex life?
A lot of the men who grow up now watching internet porn or anything else learn their sexuality and how to get stimulated down there in a way that is not mimicked by actual sex. What porn has figured out is what really works for the brain of the guys. It's the maximum stimulus.
But that maximum stimulus can interfere with how a man gets aroused. Morgentaler remembers the days when impotence was a taboo subject.
Nobody would talk, and the conversations in the office were awkward and stilted. And then, boom, Viagra came out in 1998. And the next thing you know, it's everybody's talking about this thing at the water coolers, and it changed everything.
Good morning, we've talked the whole night through. Good morning to you.
Ads for Viagra, that new miracle drug, started popping up everywhere. But it was targeted exclusively to older men. Now, a lot of young guys are trying to get their hands on that little blue pill, too.
I get men who come in to see me, often young men, who actually have no problems whatsoever sexually. And they're coming in and they're asking for these pills.
I think it's slapping a Band-Aid on a wound that's deeper than that. Some guys can, maybe get a little confidence boost from taking pills, but if you have severe porn-induced ED, it's not going to help. The bottom line is young 20-year-old or even young 20-year-old men or teenagers shouldn't be taking sexual enhancement pills. They should naturally be good to go.
Gabe went looking for answers and found out there are a lot of guys like him. This site, yourbrainonporn.com, draws more than 20,000 new hits a day from 80 countries worldwide. Guys desperate for answers. Some are even suicidal.
I did what any boy would do. I went home and started Googling, and that led me to a forum where I saw thousands of guys talking about, the same problem. They're young, healthy, they have a partner that they're attracted to, but they can't get turned on. And, that resonated with me, and I was like, that's me.
Gabe started piecing things together and discovered he was suffering from porn-induced erectile dysfunction. And there's a test for that.
First, see if you can get hard to porn, which I knew I could, and then see if you can get hard to just your touch alone, no porn fantasy. And I hadn't done this since I was like 13. So I ran to the bathroom and I tried it. I'm sitting there using my hand and trying to get hard, but I couldn't. I could not get an erection without internet porn. So, I freaked out thinking, no way, porn could be the cause. So I ran back to my room, I turned on porn just to double check, and then bam, I could get an erection.
Now he knew what the problem was, and like so many other guys, he hoped medication would be the solution.
I took Viagra and I took Cialis, and it didn't have any effect on me. And that's because Viagra helps with blood flow to the penis, but when you have porn-induced ED, your problem's in the brain, not below the belt.
Suddenly, Gabe had terrifying doubts about his future.
I thought that I was never going to be able to have sex again. I thought I was never going to be able to get married, have kids, have a family, make love to my wife, Yeah, that was really like a kick to the gut.
Next, how guys are rebooting to get it back in the bedroom.
After 2 or 3 months of no porn, no masturbation, I still had no libido and I still had ED. And so I started freaking out.
The following program includes graphic images and mature subject matter intended for adult audiences. Viewer discretion is advised.
Packs his Cialis pills for a date. He's part of a whole new wave of young men who feel the pressure to perform right off the bat.
Cialis and Viagra and things like that are normal. Like, that's a normal thing now for guys even my age to be on that. The hookup culture today is a little bit, I think girls, because of pornography, girls feel a need to compete. They want to be as desirable as the porn. And so they've upped their sexuality. You don't take a few months and get to know them and then have sex with them. You have sex with them the first night.
Sometimes they feel like there's a gun to their head. So sometimes it's the man says, Doc, I'm out there dating. The women are telling me what they like, how they like it, how often they like it. I just need something to keep up.
Dr. Abraham Morgenthaler is director of the Men's Health Clinic in Boston. He says the expectation of an instant hookup can destroy a relationship even before it starts.
often the couple has sex before they really know even whether they like each other. And what happens is that if sex doesn't work out, if the man has an erection problem, for example, that's actually a hard thing to do before there are any bonds between the man and the woman.
And so if it doesn't work out, that relationship doesn't develop often. Is that what you're saying?
That's right. So they may bounce to the next person.
Yeah, very upsetting. You know, you got this girl and she's like boom, you know, and you're just like, you know, it kind of sucks. It's a horrible feeling.
That horrible feeling Andrew's talking about stems from porn-induced erectile dysfunction, and the pressure to perform right away only makes it worse.
Finally, I had a relationship where it was going to get sexual, and it felt like nothing. It felt like, it almost felt foreign, like it was completely foreign to me, like this is not how I get turned on. You know, I'm used to looking at porn.
At age 23, Gabe Deem had the same problem. He tried Viagra and Cialis, but that didn't work. The reality is, for young men suffering from porn-induced ED, the recovery is a long, agonizing process, like kicking any addiction.
A few weeks after I gave up porn, withdrawal hit me really hard. It took me 9 months to recover.
He had to cut off all sources of artificial stimulation. In online communities where thousands of men look for answers, it's called rebooting.
I saw these guys' advice, you know, saying that if you stop watching porn, you can, your ED will go away in 6 to 8 weeks. So I said, okay, I'll quit watching porn and see what happens. And, you know, after 2 or 3 months of no porn, no masturbation, I still had no libido and I still had ED. And so I started freaking out.
To hear Gabe describe it, withdrawal from porn addiction sounds a lot like withdrawal from drugs or alcohol.
You know, 2 or 3 weeks after I gave up porn, my stress went through the roof. And I became real anxious, irritated. I couldn't focus on anything. I had a severe brain fog. And I even had insomnia where I couldn't sleep. There was a time at the lowest of the low where I was at work and I literally just lost my mind and had a panic attack. My muscles were shaking. I went outside of work in the alley and just started crying my eyes out. This period of time when I was recovering was just super dark, very depressing. I had, you know, 2 or 3 months in after not recovering, I had suicidal thoughts. You know, I was afraid as a young 23-year-old guy that I was never going to recover, and that was really scary.
After nearly a year of struggling, Gabe finally started to regain control over his body.
Around the 6-month mark, I started seeing little sparks of libido, and I saw some signs of improvement. And so that little, you know, glimpse of hope, you know, gave me encouragement to keep going. And then, yeah, once I was able to, you know, fully get an erection, then I was super thrilled, and the reboot worked. You know, now my whole mindset around sex changed, and it became more about love and not lust. You know, I started to see women in a totally different light. You know, I could see them as a, you know, equal human being and not just an object anymore.
With a successful reboot behind him and in a healthy relationship, Gabe could simply move on. But he knows there are still a lot of young men who are suffering. Andrew is 7 weeks into his own reboot.
I haven't decided yet if I'm going to continue using Cialis. I might if a girl came around and I didn't know if I was fully rebooted. I feel like I could be partially rebooted, but I don't know where I stand. It's 48 days, but a few little, you know, mixes up here and there, so I don't know.
Seeing the need and hearing the pain from all these guys that are, you know, suicidal, depressed, and just freaking out, that really, you know, drove me to share my story even more. And, you know, I found that it's really not that taboo anymore to talk about. You know, the more honest and open I am about my story, I can tell and see in people's faces that they're like, wow, really? Or they'll just relate to it.
Gabe Deem has launched a website, rebootnation.org, to help young men recover like he did. If you want to learn more about this story, join us for a live web chat with Gabe and other experts on this subject, starting at 8 p.m. Eastern this Monday at globalnews.ca. We'll be right back.